Okay, you can start now, Dr. Harada. Really, you can start, Harada-san.
Okay, so shall we start the presentation? Okay, so
Yes.
today I would like to introduce my
Buenos
research.
días. Excuse me.
Yes,
Good morning, doctor Kensure.
yeah.
Ok, buenos días para todos. Muchas gracias a todas las personas que nos están acompañando en la mañana de hoy. Queremos darle una bienvenida muy especial a todos a esta jornada inicial del tercer Encuentro Internacional de Robótica Corhuila 2023. En este momento nos acompaña el doctor Mario Argulú. Doctor Mario, buenos días.
Muy buenos días a todos. Buenos días, Sebastián.
Buenos días, doctor Mario. Doctor Mario, el escenario es todo suyo. Lo dejamos con nuestro invitado especial directamente desde Japón. Bienvenidos a todos y aquí estaremos presentes en el tercer Encuentro Internacional de Robótica Corhuila 2023 que se desarrolla desde la ciudad de Neiva en Colombia.
Good morning, Harada-san. It is a pleasure for us in this conference. We are appreciating your cooperation in our event. So our students are very animated to this conference, and please, you can start the presentation. Thank you very much. Welcome.
Okay, so thank you very much for the kind introduction. It is my great honor to present in this conference. And today, I would like to present the robotic manipulation in clutter. And as we can see from this picture, there is clutter everywhere in our daily life. And if a robot going to work in a daily life, the robotic manipulation in clutter will be a crucial technology. And in this research, we especially focus on the industrial application of manipulation in clutter. And we can focus on two topics. One is in assembly factory, and in assembly factory, the parts will be delivered from the parts production company, where the parts are stored in a container, randomly stored in a container. Then the parts are supplied to the assembly cell. To automate the assembly process by a robot, the robot has to deal with the picking parts randomly stored in the container. And as a second example, we can focus on the logistic warehouse. Um, in recent years, like Amazon, e-commerce will be getting more and more common. And in a logistic warehouse, the items are stored in a shelf, and in many cases, the uh, items are stored randomly on the shelf. And to automate the operation in a logistic warehouse, the robot has to deal with the clutter of items stored in a shelf. So in this talk, is divided into two topics, into two parts. One is the clutter in assembly factory, and the other is a clutter in a logistic warehouse. And this is the contents of today's talk. In assembly factory, we focus on the picking mechanical parts from container. And we explain three topics. One is the learning action affordance to deal with entanglement. And second, we introduce learning approach on picking wire harnesses. And third, we introduce the feedback approach on picking wire harnesses. And on the other hand, to extract items from the shelf, we first introduce the research on bimanual manipulation from collapse prediction. And secondly, we introduce the research on sorting tasks based on the collapse prediction. And thirdly, we introduce the research on multi-step manipulation planning based on collapse prediction. And first, let me introduce what is the problem in the robotic beam picking of the mechanical parts. Since the physical phenomena of piled object is very, very complex, and if when a robot pick up a simple shaped object, there is no problem. But when the robot picks up a complex shaped object, the object may be entangled with the neighboring object. So to automate the beam picking task, we have to deal with the problem of entanglement. So we can summarize the approach of robotic beam picking considering the entanglement. There are two approaches to deal with the entanglement. One is to avoid the entanglement, and the other is actively disentangle the entangled objects. And for there are two approaches to deal with the entanglement. One is the analytical approach, and the other is a learning approach. And the approach can be summarized like this. And there are two axes. The one is the axis on the objects, and the objects can be from rigid to deformable one. And in the y-axis, there are two approaches. One is the avoiding entanglement, and the other is the disentangling approach. And we have done several researches on these topics. And among these researches, we introduced three of them. And first, I would like to introduce the disentanglement approach of the rigid objects. And as shown in this figure, um, the, the robot can pick up the isolated object if there is an isolated one. However, if the robot iterates to pick the isolated object again and again, and there is no isolated object, in that case, the robot has to pick up the object with entangled with other objects. So in this case, the robot has to be actively disentangle the entangled object. So this slide shows our proposed approach. So the robot has to pick an object from the main bin, and there are two other bins. One is the goal bin, and another thing is the buffer bin. And first, robot picks an object from the bin. Then, by using the picknet, we can estimate the entanglement. Then, if the entanglement is solved, then the object is placed in the goal bin. On the other hand, if the entanglement is not solved, the objects are placed in the buffer bin. In this case, if once the object is put on the buffer bin, and then if the entanglement is solved, then it is put in the goal bin. Otherwise, the robot actively disentangle the tangled object. And this is how to train the neural network. We use the physics simulation, and there are two kinds of simulation. One is the picking simulation, and the other is the disentangling simulation. And we prepared the 85,000 samples for the picknet, and we prepared 22,000 samples of the pullnet. I'm sorry that the picknet is the neural network to avoid the entanglement, and the pullnet is the neural network to actively disentangle the entangled object. And this is the experimental results. So since this is not entangled, it is directly put in the goal bin, like this. And if it is entangled, it is put in the buffer bin. But in this case, this is entangled, then it is put in the goal bin. Like this is iterated. And this is entangled, and the entanglement is not solved. Then the robot tries to actively disentangle the tangled objects. And then one of the objects is put in the goal bin. Okay, so we can achieve the pretty high success rate. It is almost 90%. Then I would like to present about the disentangling approach of the deformable objects. So we especially focus on the wire harnesses, and this is the cable used to assemble a car, and usually deformable cable is bundled with rigid components, and it is an important component to assemble electric products of cars. But this wire harness is easily entangled, and it is stored cluttered in the bin, and it's very difficult to model the shape of the wire harness, or it is very difficult to simulate the physical phenomena of the wire harness. And in this research, we try to learn efficient policies for picking entangled wire harnesses, and we consider crafting effective disentangling actions, horizontal post-grasping movements, and in the approach, we consider learning to pick based on the current entanglement levels. We use active learning using real-world data, and it reduces the cost and human intervention. And this video shows the motion primitives for disentangling. And we assume two motion primitives. One is a helix motion, and the other is a spinning motion. And in the helix motion, the horizontal movement provides a space for gently pulling the target out. And in the spinning motion, dynamically discard the entangled ones. And we assume 6 action candidates. And so in the helix motion, there are 5, we assume a half circle and 1 circle and 2 circles, and accompanied with spinning motion or not. And this shows a proposed approach. First, by using the depth image, we use model-free grasp detection to detect the grasping pose. And then next, for given grasping pose, we use the neural network to predict the action success rate. Then, according to this action success prediction, we consider selecting the most appropriate action. So this shows the experimental result. So this is the so this is the 2 circles accompanied by spinning motion. So this is also 2 circles without accompanying the spinning motion. And like this, we can achieve the success rate of almost 85%. And finally, I would like to explain about the feedback approach on disentangling the deformable objects. So in the previous work, there are some failure cases caused by insufficient motion primitives. And also in the previous approach, does not deal with the failure case. And in the previous approach, it is impossible to predict the failure of it is impossible to realize the failure of visual prediction. So on the other hand, in this approach, we realize the dynamic manipulation. We propose the method based on the dynamic manipulation and more efficiently realize the disentangling. And we also propose the bimanual manipulation to deal with the failure of handling the length. And not just using the visual prediction, we also use the haptic feedback to deal with the failure cases. And this is the proposed approach. We first detect the grasping pose and then try to pick up the object. And while picking up, we monitor the force sensor information of the wrist. And if the entanglement is detected, the wrist is stopped, the motion is stopped. And then try the fling motion. This is the dynamic manipulation. And if the force sensor information does not change so much, we use the bimanual manipulation to extract the objects from the beam. And then the robot tried to put the wire harness in the goal beam. But in this case, if the entanglement occurs, so then try to go back to the first phase. And this shows the experimental results. So now the robot tried the fling motion. And then after fling motion, the robot uses the bimanual manipulation to extract the objects from the beam. And the success rate of our approach is very high. And for the object in the left-hand side, we achieved the success rate of 97%. And in the right-hand side, we use the very long object. So even for the very long object, we realize the success rate of almost 80%. Then let me move on to the second topic on extracting item from the shelf. So as we can see from this video, without caring so much, when extracting the item from the shelf, the other item will be go out from the shelf together with the target one. So to cope with this problem, it is important to predict the collapse. And also, it is important to consider how to deal with the collapse and how to extract an item from the shelf. And we performed 3 researches. And in the first research, we proposed the bimanual manipulation, where one of the hand is going to support the neighboring items, and we use the other hand to extract the target one. So this manipulation is enabled by using the collapse prediction. And in the second research, we propose the sorting task planner based on the collapse prediction. So different from the first one, we try to insert the new items to the shelf. So in this task has been done along with the collapse prediction. And in the third research, we propose the scene analysis. And based on the collapse relations, the duration of collapse, we can construct the graph showing the collapse relations. So based on this graph, we can propose the multi-step manipulation planner to extract an item from the shelf. Okay, so let me introduce the first research. So, as I explained in the previous slide, we use one of the hand to extract the target items. And also we use the other hand to support the neighboring items. So we propose the collapse prediction based on the deep learning. And based on the collapse prediction, we determine which object to support and to extract the target item from the shelf. So this slide shows the overview of the collapse prediction. We propose the collapse prediction network by using the autoencoder. And in this slide, there are three inputs. As shown in this slide, there are three inputs. One is a depth image, and the other second one is a supported object, and the third one is the extracted object. And the result is expressed as a heat map showing whether the object will the piled object will collapse or not. And this slide shows the experimental results. First, we obtain the point cloud, and then by using the collapse prediction network, we determine which object to support and which object to extract. And like this, the robot can successfully extract the target object without collapsing the pile in the shelf. So this is another experiment. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic of the sorting task planner. So we use the collapse prediction, and we first use the arrange detector to identify the arrangement state. And then we determine how to sort the next item to the shelf. So when sorting, we use the collapse prediction to stably insert the target item to the shelf. So this slide shows the overview of the method. And first, we analyze the state of the items. So it is arranged vertically or horizontally or others. So according to the state, we assume the manipulation strategy to insert an item to the shelf. So when inserting the item to the shelf, we have to avoid the collapse, and we use the collapse prediction network to predict the collapse of the piled object. So this shows the experimental result. The first, the state of the object is analyzed, and then next object is inserted into the shelf.
Okay, Mr. Kensure.
Yeah. We are running out of time.
Okay, time is up, Mr. Kensure.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay, no
The,
problem.
almost ending. So okay. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is the third one is the graph structure, and this is the multi-step planning. And then we can realize the multi-step planning to extract an item from the bin, from the shelf. Like this, like this, like this, like this. And this is the end of my talk. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Kensure. Mr. Kensure, thank you for thank you. We appreciate your participation today. This conference we have just here was of great importance to our participants. Yo quiero saber si de pronto tenemos alguna pregunta de las personas que nos están acompañando en la mañana de hoy en esta primer ponencia del tercer encuentro internacional de robótica, que ya estamos aquí en vivo y en directo desde el centro de convenciones del Club Confamiliar Los Lagos desde la ciudad de Neiva. Se pueden conectar a nuestras redes sociales a través de nuestro canal en Facebook. Ya nos encontramos en la transmisión del evento. Vamos a esperar si tenemos alguna pregunta por ahí, pero creo que en el momento no tenemos ninguna pregunta. Dr. Kensure, we don't have any question.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Kensure, thanks. Thanks, we appreciate your participation today.
Yeah.
No siendo más, agradecemos a todas las personas que nos acompañaron en esta primera conferencia. Los invitamos a que se conecten a una segunda conferencia. Muchas gracias para todos. Bye,
Okay.
Mr. Kensure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Prepárate este 7 y 8 de septiembre para vivir una experiencia épica en el Club Los Lagos, en el tercer Encuentro Internacional de Robótica con Huila 2023. Inspírate y aprende el mundo de la tecnología robótica a través de los showrooms, competencias y conversatorios con ponentes internacionales.
Hi, I'm very excited in participating the third International Robotics event from Huila 2023. See you soon.
Quiero invitarlos al tercer Encuentro Internacional de Robótica por Huila 2023.
Estará cierto en las fechas del 7 a noche de septiembre con Huila.
Y conoce a Ali, la candidata a la alcaldía de Neiva creada con inteligencia artificial. Asegura tu entrada. Escríbenos al WhatsApp 322-873-5281 o al 321-490-5678. Te esperamos.